On April 26, 2026, Anze Kopitar played in his final NHL game, as the Kings were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs by Colorado, marking the end of an extraordinary 20-year career. And yet, you don't hear his name often. When you hear conversations about the best players in the NHL, his name is overlooked. But when you hear talks of the most underrated players ever, his name always comes up. So why is that? Why is Anze Kopitar so underrated? Kopitar was selected in the first round of the 2005 NHL Draft, at 11th overall by the LA Kings. Dave Taylor, who was the GM at the time, said, "Through the summer, he moved rapidly up our draft list, and then we went to the Combine in Buffalo and had a chance to speak with him. In my 30 years doing that side of the game, probably the most impressive interview I've ever sat in. We had high expectations, we really liked him as a player, and we felt we were drafting a true number one center. And I think when you do that and a player is 17 turning 18, you hope they could play for 10 years. Nobody dreamed he'd be playing for 20 years. He made his NHL debut in 2006 at age 19, and he quickly became one of the league's top two-way centers, with 61 points in his rookie season. And by the end of his career, he was a 5-time All-Star, won the Selke Trophy twice as the league's best defensive forward, and won the Lady Byng Trophy 3 times. He finished with the second most face-off wins of all time, 452 goals, 864 assists, 1,316 points, and 1,512 games played. And most importantly, he led the Kings to their first 2 Stanley Cups in franchise history, in 2012 and 2014. So with all these accomplishments, you would imagine that Kopitar would be talked about a decent amount. But the reason for him not being talked about isn't hard to figure out. In terms of on the ice, he doesn't play flashy hockey. Kopitar isn't a prolific goal scorer who makes amazing dangles through defenders or makes unbelievable passes. He didn't put up flashy, mind-boggling numbers or ever really solidify himself as a consistent MVP candidate. But every night, he gave you 20 minutes of ice time, dominance in the face-off circle, and elite two-way play. He came through with 60 to 80 points every season and was always one of the best in the face-off circle. He was never the center of any on-ice controversy either, often being one of the cleanest players in the league. Over his final 6 seasons, he only had 64 penalty minutes. In his age 35 and 37 season, he had 4 penalty minutes. Also, he doesn't do anything off the ice to give himself a bad name. He is widely regarded as one of the classiest players to ever lace up a pair of skates. However, one of the biggest reasons as to why he gets overlooked might be where he plays. Brad Marchand, a long-standing NHL veteran, said, "He's a great player. He kind of hides under the radar. Listen, everybody in the hockey world knows who he is, knows he's had an unbelievable career. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. But you kind of go under the radar a bit in the West. If he's in Toronto or Boston, Chicago, New York, he is going to be all over the place. Berge is probably the best two-way player of all time, and Kopitar is right behind him. He's an unbelievable two-way player. The fact that he's still producing the way he is extremely impressive." Kopitar's legacy is undeniable in the game. He embodied excellent leadership in the NHL. Drew Doughty, who played alongside him in Los Angeles for 19 seasons, said, "Just the one thing that's always amazed me about him is how level his head stays at all times. He doesn't get too low, he doesn't get too high, he just stays level. And I'm the exact opposite. Always looked up to him for that. And if I needed someone to talk to, he's always been there for someone to talk to keep me level-headed." Another former teammate, Brian Boyle, said, "Nothing else ever really changed with him and his humility. It's no secret as to why he's so revered, and I just always appreciated his game. I could go on and on about how good of a hockey player he was. He never changed as a person. Great competitor, and you see the consistency that he's had in his game for so many years. It's who he is as a person. He's had that since a very young age, and it's always impressed me just how humble he is, how inclusive he is, and how easy he was just to be around." Kopitar will no doubt be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and now that he's retired, many fans might be giving him the honor of being the most underrated player of all time.